Hey guys, it's Craig at Area 419, and I've got in front of me, for the second time here on YouTube, a Kahles K328i. So we dropped a review video several months ago where we had one of these in our hands in prototype version. And my mood on it then was a little wishy-washy. And the reality was we had a product that was a little bit screwy. So when they did some prototype models, and this is somewhat common as an organization that gets some early release items, when they were assembling the ocular end of that optic, there was one lens that was tilted a little bit off, just by a couple degrees, but it was enough that we encountered some of our hesitations, the edge-to-edge clarity and the vibrance of the image. But it wasn't exactly what we expect out of Kahles. The eye box was a little less forgiving than we had expected, given the fact that this optic came from a meeting that was had in Atlanta 5 years ago on what exactly should an optic be. So I finally got one of the new serial production ready to go. If you order one, this is what you're gonna get, versions of this 328i. And guys, I'm way more impressed than I was a handful of months ago. What it comes down to is you're getting, especially in the ranges of like 17 to 22 power, a really big, really vibrant, super clear and high resolution image out of what is overall not a huge optic. We think they did really well focusing on that power range, because when we met with them, and when I say we, it was me and a handful of guys that were at that point spending a lot of time on ranges, shooting a lot of matches, and we basically made a wish list that we want a really big field of view. We want a solid eye box. It has to be clear, and color resolution is really probably more important than brightness. Size isn't a big deal. It can be as big or small as it needs to be, and it needs to be very, very good in that 17 to 22 kind of power range. If you shoot matches, you know that that's where you're gonna spend most of your time, especially in a tactical setting. I'm impressed by how bright it is, the color, the resolution, but again, the field of view is the star of the show here. We're gonna put on screen how the field of view on this thing compares with a 525 from Kahles, as well as one of the new 6 to 36 razors from Vortex. Those are optics that you've probably seen around. You might have a good opportunity to get behind, but what they've done here in expanding the field of view is most of the story. Now again, they have their 10 mil rev turrets. For a while, Kahles was putting a lot of adjustment on a single rotation of their elevation turret. They backed it down to 10, so it's easier to see, easier to feel, and we really like that. It's just a nice optic to be behind. The things to look out for: it's an 8x erector system, which is kind of crazy, meaning that the 3.5 power goes up by 8 times to get to 28 power. At 3.5, it's not my favorite 3.5 power optic. You get a little bit of compression and a little bit of distortion as you move around, but anything with a super huge range, you should expect that. At 28, the eye box starts to tighten a little bit, and it becomes a little bit less forgiving to shoot. If you're on a bench, if you're laying prone and not moving dynamically, that's totally fine. But they've also done a good job in balancing the reticle to be useful all the way from top to bottom, but really perfect in what we'll call that mid-range of 15, 17, whatever, to about 22 power. If you're looking for a do-it-all optic that's good on a hunt, good in a match setting, it's not overly large or overly heavy, you need to get behind one of these. They're well done. I've been getting calls from friends in the shooting community saying, hey, do you have one of these? Can I get behind it? I'm hearing really good things. And it's because Kahles has been a premium optics manufacturer for a very long time. And with the 328i, I think they're delivering a product that is very much on brand and on promise for them. With the 328i though, we want to talk about our mid-height, mid-cantilever 36 millimeter mount. So we have our standard one-piece tactical scope mounts. These are basically centered up where your mounting cleats are centered between your rings. But as some of this new generation of optics comes out, it's largely your 35 and 36 millimeter tube products that have more space required between where your eye wants to be and where this erector housing is. These are available now, so if you've got one of these 328i's that you picked up out of serial production, this mount's available. Quantities on availability will grow, but this mount was basically custom made to fit the optics that are coming in this new class. It's the perfect match for this optic that wants to sit a little bit further forward on your receiver. Guys, the 328's pretty cool. I was tepid on it when I gave you that review a few months ago. Got one that's out of serial production, and this thing is solid. Get your hands on one.